Sydney Supersonics family. Have an awesome video for you today. Now, if you enjoyed our sort of shooting breakdown that we put up last week, you're going to absolutely love this one. Now, we've really been focusing in on sort of the fundamental skill sets of basketball and how we can help you sort of get from a stage of potentially being a beginner or wherever you're at now and understand the exact roadmap that you need to take towards becoming the player that you want to be, and ultimately that could be being an elite athlete. As a scientist myself, as an exercise and sports scientist and a human performance scientist, I really pride myself on understanding the things that go into creating optimal human performance. And so in my sort of 10 years or more of study in my own applications as a player, but then also at university in my exercise and sports science degree, and then reading, tens and thousands of hours of books and materials. It's really allowed me to understand the process of skill acquisition. And so I've got a fairly lengthy video today, but it's well worth your time because this will set the framework, and I guarantee you've never seen anything like this video. Absolutely, if you like the shooting one, that was one level, and then this one is another level on top of that, because ball handling is something that can be kind of hard to measure. And so really just wanted to touch on where we're going with this and what you can get from it. Absolute shout out to FIBA 3x3 for those highlights, by the way. Thank you so much for supporting us and being the people who provided this awesome format of the game of 3-on-3 basketball. It's going to allow players to really master these concepts of ball handling and dribbling so much more quickly and readily than they would if they were playing just 5-on-5, because of the ability to get in game and make decisions and actually do these ball handling concepts against real defenders in live situations and test their skill acquisition. So absolute shout out to FIBA 3-on-3. That's why I wanted to include that in the start of this video, because we would not be here without them and the initiative they've taken to make this game a real popular format. And so if you haven't played already, would love you to be able to start playing and get involved with that. So really, strap yourself in, take your time with this. All of the resources and the notes will be in the link as to how you can get access to them. They're all contained within our blueprints, and it will be something that we work with as Sonics coaches, continuing to work with players who just want to level up. No matter what level you're at, whether you're a professional player or you've just started out, there's something for you in this video, I guarantee. And I guarantee you it will be the best thing you found on ball handling and shooting. As I say in the video as well, thank you so much to all of the coaches who put in time and put up their resources available on YouTube to allow everyone to benefit from them. And I would love for you to reach out if you see this video and you want to have a conversation with me. Please do. We want to help you. I want to plug you in with our athletes and the people seeing this. And at the end of the day, I just want to get more people playing basketball and enjoying the game of basketball. And that is what we're all here for. So that's what the Sonics is all about. And I thank you so much for joining in. I guarantee you will not be disappointed. So we look forward to seeing you sourcing up some ankles, crossing up people, and becoming the ball handler you've always wanted to be. Sydney Supersonics. This is, I know I said last time, this is something I'm incredibly excited about, but this one is another level above in terms of how excited I am to be able to share this with you all. And I just know, even at the level that I'm at and where I'm currently playing at, I can benefit a ton from this, and I'm really excited to be able to teach this to any player at any level and just really help them master the art of ball handling and dribbling. And I'm not going to say for any stretch of the imagination that I am a master of dribbling, and that's why we're using film analysis and film study of players like Kyrie Irving and the best players who can change speeds to really show what the best in the world are doing, using the principles of science, skill acquisition, and basic motor fundamentals to really give you the complete guide to dribbling and ball handling. Now, with all of that said, I want to firstly acknowledge that what we've done here, and this is the whole philosophy of the Sydney Supersonics, is we're standing on the shoulders of giants. We have simply created a resource that pulls together the best information possible on the internet. It's all freely available and freely published, and we've put it into a way that connects it all with principles of science and fundamentals of skill acquisition. So I just want to firstly acknowledge that, to say thank you so much for everyone who has put time in to create those videos on YouTube. It's absolutely, it's just amazing that there's that much material out there online, and the fact that it's being put out there to help the athletes who are coming up continue to progress our sport of basketball. And so if any of the videos that come out of this and that you look at entice you or interest you, please, please, please go on to the independent channels of which they came from, and interact with their channels, go through their courses. The more that you put into this and the more time you spend understanding the fundamentals of ball handling and basketball and getting into basketball, the better you're going to be at the end of the day. We really just wanted to give you a nice little framework and guide. As you can see here, we've sort of got 12 levels, with more specifics at past level 12 that really help to just contextualize and break down ball handling and skill development. And firstly, to set the scene, I just want to acknowledge that why we did this is because a lot of players really struggle with a structure, and they struggle with knowing where things fit and understanding how they can continue progressing, particularly with a skill like ball handling that's not particularly easy to measure. And what doing a university degree in sports science has taught me is that there really are scientific principles that go into the acquisition and development of skills. And when we break those down, it's not quite black and white. It's a little bit of a grey area, but you can really give yourself a nice guide using the principles of science and how the human body adapts to determine what is the best way to learn different skills. And so when applying this to dribbling, it's a little bit different to shooting. Shooting, as you can see in this guide here, it's easier to measure. You can say, you have to be able to nail 5 shots in a row from this specific spot to move on to the next one. Whereas with dribbling, as you can see, there's not as many tests. Now, over time, these will be filled in, but I just was so excited to share this because I know it'll help a lot of people, and we'll eventually sort of work out some tests to really clearly progress you through it. But that's sort of where coming in and working with a coach and sort of knowing yourself and when you feel confident with this particular drill will allow you to progress through effectively. And at the end of the day, we would recommend really taking your time and taking time to go through it. And what I would sort of suggest at this stage is really take your time to progress through the levels. Dribbling is a bit more of a fluid skill, and there's a lot of factors involved. So don't be scared to jump up to these levels and try and apply the concepts that you're seeing in the top levels in your game and in your gameplay, because that's really what we're out here for. We're out here to have the most fun possible and enjoy our playing of the game, depending on their age that you're at, but also know that you're going to have to master these fundamental skill sets before you progress up and really start to master these skills down here. And so the biggest message is be patient with your skill acquisition. Understand that it's a process, it's a clear process that you can work towards to get better and better and better, and to become a ball handler like Steph Curry or Kyrie Irving, really takes a lot of time mastering, firstly, these fundamentals here to develop your muscles and develop the basics of ball handling. And then secondly, drills on the move, understanding the footwork, and then working through your multi-stimulus work so that you can increase the processing capacity of the brain and your ability to autonomously perform skills. And so with all of that said, I want to sort of dive into the specifics here, because it's really important to just keep realistic time frames as for all of this. And I would recommend that at least 6 weeks is spent on each individual block. So you spend, say, 2 weeks here, 2 weeks here, and slowly building it up. Now, I would say 6 weeks on each individual block before really progressing up is a really good way to go about it. And if you happen to go less, once you feel comfortable with it, for example, level 1, that's pretty straightforward. That'd take you 5 or 10 minutes at the start of your ball handling workouts, and then you can build on it from there. But the idea is you sort of aim for 10 minutes a day of work, and you can pick any of these drills as you progress through them. Once you start to master them, then you can just put them on maintenance. You can do them every now and again, and then slowly build up in order of intensity. And the best thing about ball handling is once you master a certain level of a skill, then going to the next level of that skill will continue to refine the skill that you've previously mastered, and you don't necessarily need to touch on it. So I like to just say a rough guide, 6 week per block or level, progressing through it. and at least 10 minutes per day. And that'll really guarantee that you master the basics of it. Now, firstly, just to touch on some of the fundamentals, I always put a little theory section because the biggest thing that I see most coaches and most guides on the internet not providing is a scientific framework for your training, and it doesn't order things in order. It just gives a bunch of random drills. So if you were to search on YouTube how to improve my ball handling, you would probably find drills from here, must have guard skills, change of pace, and ultimate guide to changing pace, and how to use your off arm, the hidden key to ball handling. But if you're a beginner player, that is going to be completely lost on you. You need to master these basic ball control drills and master the fundamentals of ball handling so that your motor cortex is adapted to it. And so that's why we've put it into a leveled structure, really based on science and the principles of skill acquisition. Now, just to acknowledge that, firstly, I want to touch on this concept here, developing touch and feel, and what's the importance of that. So this is in our Elite Athlete Blueprint. And again, this whole spreadsheet will be available in the blueprint for you to run through at your own time and to work with your coach on. But this section here, the dribbling section, we've got some really cool videos showing, what the artistry of dribbling can really be about and how it can really go to, different levels of your game and how it looks. And I mean, just look at this here. This is an example that I want to point out, but look at that angle that Michael Jordan's leg is on. So that is his outside leg. You can see his knees twisted almost all the way in. And that is the kind of fundamental mobility and physical preparation you need to be able to dribble the ball at a high level. His torso is completely bent over. If you tried to assume that position, almost guaranteed that most people, 99% of people, probably wouldn't be able to get into that position, let alone perform dribbling in that position. Same with what Kobe's doing here. And these are just two examples of some of the artistry that dribbling can provide and some examples of the end goal of what dribbling could be. Now, this lecture is sort of still in the works, and we're constantly adding to this all the time, but really the idea of dribbling is that it's the key to effortless play. And why is that? Well, I just want to quickly touch on the concept of developing touch. And so when we look at what touch is, essentially all touch is our brain's devotion to the motor cortex of being able to use our hands to control the basketball. And so as we progress more through dribbling, we actually create more space here in our motor cortex, so the motor map in the precentral gyrus. And so what this is essentially the map in our brain designated to our ability to control. So motor is essentially motion, control motion. So when we practice dribbling more, what we would see these pictures here of a hand and a foot, that is the relative size of our brain that is devoted to that section of our body. And so when we dribble the basketball more, we find that this area becomes more red and this hand becomes larger, and there'll actually be a basketball appearing where our brain devotes motor cortex space to the basketball itself and the control of the basketball. And that is an amazing, amazing phenomenon. That is the concept of neuroplasticity at work. And that's why whenever you practice ball handling, no matter what you're doing, it's going to be beneficial because you're devoting space in your motor map and motor gyrus to being able, and as we say here, the precentral gyrus, to being able to control the basketball. And that requires adaptation, it requires time to recover, and it requires you to look after your brain. And that's why basketball is about intelligence, because it's motor intelligence. It's directly related to your brain. And that's why it's so important to eat well, look after your brain, and continue to sleep and repair and do all of those things that are really going to foster optimal brain health. So this weird looking picture here is essentially if our body was the same size as the amount of space taken up in our brain, this is called the motor homunculus, how big would each of our body parts be? And as you can see, our hands would be massive because that is how much of our brain is devoted to our hands. And then if we're a basketball player, if you've got Kyrie here, his motor homunculus would be even bigger on his hand, and he would have a basketball in his brain as well. And that's how powerful skill acquisition is. Our brain can adapt to anything, and we start to create space in our brain to be able to perform skills well. Same with Steph Curry as a shooter. He would have a much bigger hand as his brain has this amazing control over his hand and ability to control force through his body. Now, with all that said, there's some basic drills in this lecture, but we went into the next level to be able to really break down everything that goes into dribbling. So that is sort of the basics of developing feel and touch. The next thing that I wanted to touch on was, we talked about it in the shooting lecture, but understanding dynamic variability in skill performance, and that when we perform a skill, we're never performing that skill in the same way. And every single time we're performing a skill, they talk about muscle memory. It's really not an accurate way to think of it, because it's more that like our body understands muscle memory, but what muscle memory really is our body's ability to efficiently coordinate all of the moving body parts. There's a concept known as degrees of freedom in movement, and there's so many moving parts in a human moving system. And so you can imagine we've got 200 and look at this. We've got all of the muscles, all of the joints, and in every single movement that we're performing, our body has to control all of these different joints, and there's a literally almost infinite amount of ways that the body can move. And so skill acquisition is about our ability to tense the core, to stabilize the shoulder, to stabilize the neck, and just simply move the parts of the body that we need to move to be able to perform the skill. And that's what degrees of freedom is all about. And the reason why that is important is because dynamic variability states that in every moment, the most skilled performer is the person who has the most variability in their ability to control the skill. And so when you're dribbling, no two dribbles are ever going to be the same, and that's why it's important to practice all of these different types of dribbles. Even if you think you're never going to do the James Harden size-up dribble, it's going to expose you to a different angle and a different space so that you're able to really devote more ability to control the relevant parts of your body and control your movement in relation to dribbling. And that's why it's incredibly important to work through the multi-stimulus drills and the two-ball dribbling drills. Even though they're not game specific, what you're doing is you're improving your ability to control the degrees of freedom, you're adding in extra layers of stimulus, and you're speeding up the complexity of the brain and your processing capacity so that when it comes time to the game, you can devote your skill more towards the automaticity stage of skill acquisition. So there's two really important skill acquisition concepts I want to just quickly acknowledge. So firstly, we've got cognitive, associative, and autonomous. Cognitive is sort of like cognition. We're thinking about the skill. We're really, really thinking about it. And if you watch a lot of younger players perform dribbling, they're really thinking about it. They're looking at the basketball. Associative is more about really just, okay, how does that then relate to my other movements? So they're associating their ability to perform that skill with other movements, and they progress out of the cognitive stage and they don't have to think about it as much. And associative is where most ball handlers end up living. Like a lot of players who are still looking at the ball still have to look at it occasionally and check back into their performance. And you can tell that they're thinking about it and it's not smooth. That is an associative skilled performer. And notice this is all a continuum. There's no stage where you necessarily get to associative, but it's really important just to note this is why we use a lot of footage and why the test to notice that you've passed the stationary dribbling is actually a video of Peyton Pritchard performing his dribbling, because once you progress to the automatic stage and the autonomous stage, you'll notice just the smoothness of the skill and you're not really needing to look at the basketball. And the other really important concept is, as we progress through the stages of skilled performance, speed is the final stage when we see, so we go through the 7 sort of stages, speed and pressure are the final stages. And in the example of stationary ball handling, what we want you to do is film yourself performing this exact sequence and compare it to the example of Peyton Pritchard. The video of Peyton gives you an idea of what you need to do to be able to play professional basketball, and this video alone is worth its weight in gold. This video should be charged at hundreds of dollars, because this is someone who has put in 10, 20 years of work into their ball handling, and that is the end result of what they're doing. And so you can constantly refer back to that to understand what it is that you need to do to be able to perform that skill. So as we look through the final step of skill acquisition, perform the skill very well at speed, under fatigue, under pressure, consistently in competition conditions. And if we scale that back, we notice that autonomous stages of skill is the same as this. So that's how to define autonomous a bit better. And the faster we perform it and the more fatigue we perform it under, the more we know we've sort of reached this autonomous stage. Now, that is just some fundamental theory to really guide you into how to progress with this. And another thing I want to touch on is just optimal practice sessions, which we'll have a lecture on. But, when we talk about spacing in skill acquisition, there's a suggestion to say that in performance of skills, we want to make sure that we're really spacing out our ability to practice and knowing how to do it. And so those who practice for 1 hour a day took considerably fewer hours to learn a skill than those who practice for 2 hours twice a day. The fastest person in the latter group took 2 hours longer than the slower person. So what this is talking about is that when you practice skills, you're much better off doing a shorter amount of skilled practice. So say 15, 20 minutes until you find that you reach a point of fatigue, taking a break and then coming back again. And that's why ball handling is so crucial to do sort of that 10 minutes every day or multiple times a day. Because this spaced repetition practice, forgive me, I didn't fully read through the whole thing, but basically space practice concept, it really states that the more you space out practice, the better that you will be. And so when looking at optimal practice sessions, you really want to make sure that the duration isn't too long, and that you're mastering skills. And there's a difference between practicing and there's a difference between applying. And so when you're first learning them, we'd recommend going shorter sessions, sort of like 10 to 30 minutes, really just nailing the drills and focusing in on 1 or 2 drills. And then when you're applying, getting to this game specific application stage, that's where you can go to your 30, 40 minutes plus and apply these in actual game scenarios with jump shots at the end of it, with different things at the end of it. But you want to make sure that you're getting the skill down pat first and then applying it into game context. And that's where these sort of 7 levels come in. So that's enough about really the theory of skill acquisition. I don't want to touch on it too much longer, but you can see here, as you progress up, you start to not need rules. You start to be able to see how these skills fit into your own levels of performance, and you start to be able to make your own decisions. And that's a really important thing as a ball handler. This is only a guide to help you progress, and when you get stuck, you can use it to continue progressing. But what we want to acknowledge is that you're much better off in the long run taking the dribbling into your own hands, noticing things that aren't on here potentially. I don't think there will be too many, but noticing those things and then applying those into your own game and fit it in with your type of player that you are. These are all things just to help you master the art and the skill of dribbling, but there's tons more that can be used to continue improving your ability to play. And so, with that said, be your own best head coach and make sure you have fun with it. The best way to go about this is just to make sure that you're having fun and you're really enjoying it. And depending on your age is going to tell you how you apply it. And so just to quickly touch on that concept of age, I want to just acknowledge the long-term athletic development concept. A massive lecture on this in the blueprint, definitely. But it's really important just to acknowledge which age you're at on here and know, okay, like this is a massive guide. This is essentially the guide for 10 years. If you were 10 years old, this would take you 10 years to master. And you don't want to take any shorter than 10 years because you want to make sure you nail the fundamentals. And this is what professional players like James Harden do, who James Harden's been playing for 20 years. And so you want to take your time to master all of these things to get to that level. And the reason why we put this concept in there is because, really acknowledge what age you're at. And if you're sort of in this age of 5 to 10 or 11, really, you want to make sure you're having fun with your ability to play. Sure, there's training needed, and any athlete should be able to do 10 minutes a day, but you don't need to be able to master the kind of triple threat and handling pressure or changing speeds or all of those things. Sure, you can use them, but you don't necessarily need to master it at younger ages, and you don't need to stress too much about not being able to perform them optimally or performing these sort of 2-ball dribbling drills at a young age because chances are you're probably going to need to just master the strength and the ability to pound the ball hard before you do anything. And so another really big thing is always pound the ball as hard as possible. That is a key to developing, long-term ball handling. And I'm actually going to highlight that because it is such an important concept in pounding the ball and really making sure that that is something that's a feature of your training. Because when you look at the best basketball players in the world and the best point guards, they're pounding the ball so hard when they're dribbling, and that is the key to developing the muscle memory and the control and the ability to just to rep out drills. And when you watch Peyton Pritchard do this, he is pounding that ball so hard it's not even funny. And so kind of looking through all of these concepts here, we can see the different drills that we need to be able to do and how important they are. And so just to touch back on to this here, really acknowledge what you can do and the different ages that you're at, and take your time to progress through these things. Like, you wouldn't really need to be mastering all of these different dribbles until you're sort of 5 years into playing and you're at this stage of sort of 16 plus is where you can really start saying, all right, I need to start mastering the other levels of dribbling. But I wouldn't suggest really focusing all of your time on here until you've progressed through these fundamentals of multi-stimulus work and two-ball dribbling. And another caveat to that, and something I will say, is that there's nothing to stop you from using these, but it's absolutely critical to make sure that these are something you continue to strive towards. And this is not necessarily a guide of how to play and how to perform the skill, but it's more a guide of where to spend your time during practice. And that is a massive, massive point. Where to spend your time during practice means, okay, when I go out to work on my ball handling, am I going to be working on triple threat, changing speed and all that? Well, those things are going to be useless if you don't have the automaticity of your skill to start dissociating the body, start focusing on body segmentation. And if you're thinking too much about dribbling the ball, then you're not going to be able to do these things as effectively as you can. So it's really about, once you've mastered these basics and these levels at the beginning, that's when you can then start spending more time on the later levels. But it doesn't mean that you ever spend all of your time, and then that means that you can't access any of these dribbles during your playing. Playing is very different to training. When you play, you get out and just have fun and experiment with things. So that's a really important caveat to mention, because a lot of people can get very robotic with this kind of stuff. Now, if you notice the spreadsheet, there's notes in different ones, and pay attention to these notes. I know they're sort of hidden, but if there's a little black tab, that means there's a note. But the other thing I quickly want to touch on as well is sort of mobility and depth, and this is a massive component for ball handling. And really, I've sort of put here, this episode from PJF is great. It really goes into the depths of ball handling, and ball handling is about so much more than just dribbling the ball. It's about your athleticism. It's about your ability to get into low positions. It's about your speed, your strength, all of that stuff. And so this is going to develop your ball control and ability to handle the ball. And while working with our physical preparation program and the other program that we recommend, which is knees over toes, you're going to be building the mobility and depth you need to be able to perform these skills well, so that when you come out and focus on dribbling, you can just focus on getting low and getting into the positions that you've learned to control through your physical prep time. So we've also got a cool little mobilization workout that you can do before you're dribbling that will just help you to loosen up a little bit more each time you get out and start getting lower and lower with your dribbling, which is really awesome. And this is something you can just do every day or every now and again, just to loosen yourself up. And the more time you spend in these low positions, the better. The more low you'll be able to get. But another thing, I'd recommend checking out this video of Kyrie Irving and how he moves and what makes him so great, because this is the key to ball handling. At the end of the day, it's your ability to get low and control positions. And then Another one is sort of this workout here from PJF, which is a real like sort of movement and footwork type drill. And it just gives you some context as to, all right, how can I start to incorporate my footwork into my dribbling? And the reason we put this at the beginning is because a lot of players just think it's dribbling. When you watch juniors play, they focus just on the hands, but it's about more than the hands. It's about the feet. It's about the whole body. It's about your ability to control positions and move. And so you want to master the individual fundamentals of dribbling the ball and controlling it, but you also want to then continue to master the basics of controlling your body, moving well, moving fast, moving quick, and getting shifty. And at the end of the day, this whole guide's going to help you get shifty, and it's very progressive. The best example of being shifty is the Allen Iverson crossover. And so, as you see, like you want to be able to master the front cross first before you then go into trying to master the crossover. We're going to work through crossovers, quickness drills, hesitations, all that stuff. So it's all in here. You've got the complete guide to ball handling. So take your time to go through it. And just to acknowledge, this is sort of your stationary series. These are the things you need to be able to do while stationary, and then you can go on to sort of moving and external factors and mastering the next levels of basketball. Things like through the legs and then countering, such as this one here, which is a great move. Get your hesitation, counter with that through the legs, using the off arm, so that's where you're getting extra stimulus involved. All really, really important concepts. Now, as for the other things I wanted to touch on, when we look at mobility and the importance of it, we can see here Michael Jordan's position that he's in. You see his level of physical preparation to be able to get in this position is amazing. Most people would roll their ankle in that position there. His knee, that is a massive position where it's known as a valgus position of the knee, but because Michael Jordan's so prepared, he can tolerate that. A lot of people would tear ligaments and everything like that in that position. And a lot of that is down to his VMO. The knees over toes guy has a lot of videos on this, but I just want to talk about the low positions that elite dribblers are able to get into. And you can see Kyrie is incredibly low. He's using his offhand, and the trunk is like basically all the way forward. If you look here, this is an amazing sort of low position from Kemba. Kyrie's foot is basically off the ground there. He's on both of his insteps of his feet. And we really work on that actually in our dribbling drill on the Sonics here, in this behind the back drill. And it's really important just to acknowledge these positions. And I want to show athletes this because a lot of athletes just take this for granted, but when you really look at it and try to put yourself in that position, you'll see, man, they are incredibly low. And that's why physical preparation, using knees over toes, using the guide that we give for the 1x20 is so important, because when you don't do the 1x20 and you don't do the mobility work and you don't do the strength work, there is no way you'll be able to get into these positions here and assume those low positions, because your knees simply won't be able to take it, and you're not going to be able to be as effective as a ball handler as you possibly can be, because at the end of the day, ball handling is about your hands, yes, but it's also about body segmentation and dissociation and your ability to get low and mobile into different positions. And so really, really critical point. Another bonus we've put in here is the white chocolate move, and this is a great one because, Jason Williams was an amazing ball handler, but he was also a great passer. And so to be able to master the passing up against the wall, we'd recommend sort of doing this one time a week, getting down your passing work. It's going to just give another element of ball handling, but it's not necessarily fundamental as such. And with that said, you can include any ball handling drill into that, and it will benefit you. So as you can see here, we sort of go through the next steps, game specific and step in combo. So you're getting, once you've mastered the fundamentals of stationary ball handling, you then go into game specific stuff such as step ins, Allen Iverson crosses, hesitations, through the legs moves, behind the back, and different ways to do them, spin moves, and you've got clips here from all of the greatest skill trainers in the world. So this is an amazing drill, and thank you so much to all of these skill trainers for being featured in, like Jordan Lawley and Drew Hanlon. I love all these guys, and you guys have been massive mentors to me and the Sonics. And then we go sort of to the next step, drills on the move. So dribbling drills that you can do at home, how to master sort of the float and the hesitation, stepping up to sort of multi-stimulus work, what Steph Curry does with the tennis ball. And these ones are great. And then this through the legs combination series, which is an amazing series, that'll really help you to start mastering the automaticity of the skill. And once you can perform sort of all of these levels, you will be completely automatic with your dribbling, and then you can start focusing on the off arm, how to use the off arm, and then focusing on body segmentation and the hip swivel and some in and out combos, which is getting your body into positions and then using the arm on the other side. So you're using your head and body to fake the defender and using the dribble on the other side to really get yourself out of that position. And then we've got change of pace, change of speed, and a full workout on that. And then it's in-game applications, really just handling pressure, escape dribbles, mastering ball and protection, misdirection footwork, and size up dribbles. This is an amazing thing whenever you watch James Harden, how he does size up dribbles. But all of this stuff, I mean, you can't do a size up dribble properly if you don't have complete control of the basketball in multiple positions. And you can't do it if you don't know how to use your body to protect the ball and don't have the ability to use the off arm. And that's all reliant on your ability to control multiple stimuluses, handle the defender, see what other players are doing around you, and see the whole floor. And this is the problem that most players have. They try to do something like a size up dribble when they simply just don't have autonomous skills. They're sort of, most of them are in this, if we go back here, in this associative stage or even the cognitive stage, and they're trying to do through the legs James Harden combos, but they're just looking at their player or they're looking at the ball itself, and they completely get tunnel vision and don't see what's happening on the rest of the floor, and they're not able to throw passes, and they're not able to really read the game around them. And the beauty and the magic of James Harden is that this whole time that he's doing this, he's seeing all of these players moving off the ball, and he's ready to throw passes and make those decisions. And there's no point in being a great dribbler if you can't see your other players, because what makes most dribblers so deadly, someone like Chris Paul, for example, he's not particularly fast, but what makes him so deadly is he can see what every other player is doing on the floor at all times, and he can throw a pass out of any dribble move and any dribble combination. And I should make a note, like dribbling and reading the game is critical, because it's hard to measure, but being able to see everything else that's going on is just, as I said, fundamental. And that's what someone like Chris Paul, as I said, was doing. He's able to see what his other players are doing, and then if he's making a dribble move, his dribble move and the genius of his dribble move is being able to see that player and what they're doing and the other players, and then misdirecting them, say, into a screen. He'll look into the screen and then cross back. It's not quick, but he's sent his player into the screen, and then he's able to reject it and go off it. And so, really, I'm just going to quick note there, really mastering those elements and the decision-making capacities involved with dribbling is going to be how you step up into the next levels. And so, as we get more advanced, there's probably plenty more concepts we can include at the latter stages, but without mastering these fundamentals, and again, this is more a guide for your training as opposed to your playing, so this should be enough to keep most players. I doubt there would be many players in the NBA that could perform this two-ball dribbling series. And this is a guide for most players that will serve them for the rest of their career. And basically, once you get up to mastering sort of this level 7 of the two-ball dribbling series, then you've pretty much mastered all the basics of dribbling and the fundamentals. And then from there, you can just go into this further game application and just playing and getting good at playing. So with all that said, that is our ultimate guide to dribbling. Let us know what you think. We'd love to work with you on all of this, and can't wait to see how you incorporate it. It's just going to be something you can continue building on for the rest of your career and continue incorporating. And we'd love to see you all using it in your 3-on-3 game. Thank you so much for checking out the video today. As I talked about, all of these materials can be accessed in the Elite Athlete Blueprints. All you need to do is check the link in the description below, and we'll all be there for you. We're keen to work with you as coaches. We've got tons of these resources. We wanted to make them available for free so that you could improve your game. And at the end of the day, do the thing that we all want to do, which is improve at basketball and get better. It was all designed to help you continue progressing and understanding your ability to progress. And so please check out the blueprint below. Let us know if you have any questions, if you want more drills or anything like that, if there's anything we left out. We really want to help you out in helping you to become a better basketball player. If you want more videos like this, subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Instagram at Sydney Supersonics 3x3. And until then, we will see you next time. And really, as we said, actually, I should mention, if there are any sort of other videos you want or any questions you have, please reach out. We want to create more of this stuff for you guys. And yeah, we'll see you guys on the other side. Look forward to seeing you developing, particularly during this trying time of lockdown.